Peace. This is part 2 of the Revolutionary War. Was to take the land from the Aborigines. Okay, so last one start when I ended off, I was actually around here somewhere, and I was giving you the idea that you had certain Indian tribes that didn't want to go to war because they didn't want to lose. They didn't want to basically they didn't want to be on the side of the Aborigines, so they stayed neutral, right? And all right, so I'm gonna read this part right here, and I'm gonna just go and I'm gonna show you some other things. Now remember, the Revolutionary War was basically to separate America from Europe. I mean, from Britain. Okay, remember, Britain is still England and London. All that shit is the same. Okay, so don't be thrown off by British and London and England. Don't be thrown. It's the same shit. Okay, so remember this. All right. 1776 supposed to be in the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War was basically Declaration of Independence. Okay, so it's not independence. Now it could mean two things from what I'm saying. It could saying that they could be independent because they got a system over here. But remember, when I first read, when we was reading the Virginia Company, what did it say? The Virginia Company is London. Okay, now check this out. What did the Virginia Company go on to become? The United States. So they never separated. So the Revolutionary War was not what we was told. Okay, so now let me go on. So it's saying in the countries, I mean in the Ohio country of Guyashata, it say and Seneca, cornstalks of the Shawnees and the white eyes of the Delaware worked hard to steer a neutral course in the early years of the war. They're saying that they trying to be neutral. They say at the Treaty of Fort Pitt in 1776, Delaware and American pledged perpetual peace and friendship. Oh, they say perpetual peace and friendship. All right, let me read that again. All right, it say in Ohio country, the Guyashata.
One possibility I see is
the Guyashata and the Seneca cornstalk of the Shawnees and white eyes of the Delaware worked hard to steer a neutral course in the early years of the war. At the Treaty of Fort Pitt in 1778, Delaware and Americans pledged perpetual peace and friendship. Now, all right, let me just go ahead. I'm gonna just try to get a complete understanding as I go along. Okay, they say, but after American killed White Eyes and Cornstalk, they say, and slaughtered non-combatants. So basically, remember this. This is what they trying to do. Okay, they trying to disguise the Americans and saying that the Britons is the Americans. Okay, the Britons are still a Britain. Remember, all of the colonists came from London, came from Britain, so they are always Britain. Okay, but now they trying to say that they're Americans. They say, so I say, now either this is what I'm getting out of that. All right, so it could either be that some of the Aborigines are Americans, in which they could be referring to in this article, or they could be referring to as the British as American, which we know they're not American. So, and also this article could be misleading. But like I said, when you read it and you get an understanding of what was going on, see, my understanding is this: that they couldn't declare independence because we are still under England today. Okay, so to me, it would make more sense that they went to war with the tribes to try to spread out. Okay, because remember, first they started off in Jamestown, and then they ended up all the way in New England, Maine, and Connecticut, and all that. How did they get all the way up there? Because they stretched it out. Their plan was after the War of 1622, they said they declared Virginia as a province of Britain or British or England or London or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So it says, so I said, so after Americans killed White Eyes and Cornstalk, and so my thing is this. Remember this too, right? Okay, if the Americans are the colonists or the British, right? Let's say that the British that came over here, let's say now they consider themselves to be Americans, right? Why would they go to war with Britain and they was warring with the Indians? That would have been an automatic defeat. You understand? Because the Indians would have seen the uprising, and then they would have used that as an opportunity to take them down. So obviously, what I'm thinking is that the British came to help the British that colonies that was over here defend the Indians off. That's what I'm thinking, or the Aborigines. Remember, all right. So say, but after Americans killed White Eyes and Cornstalk, it's saying slaughtered the non-combatants. It say Moravian, Delaware. It say at the mission town of Ganadin Haddon. It say Ohio Indians made common cause with the British. It say they won victories and in the West long after Cornwallis it say had surrendered in the East. It saying continue to resist American expansion for the dozen years after the Revolution. So that's basically it's telling you that these look, understand this, right? How is the Americans or the British supposed to be the Americans? How is the British going to war with the so-called people of the land, which is I just clearly just told you, you know what I'm saying? How are they going to war with them and they going to war with the British at the same time? It doesn't make no fucking sense. You understand what I'm saying? As I say they won victories in the West long after Cornwallis has surrendered in the East. It say and continue to resist American expansion. So if they was like, so if the, why would the Americans be like, just think about what I just read there. It say they won victories in the West long after Cornwallis. Cornwallis must have been some type of tribal or some type of tribe, right? It say and surrendered in the East. All right, so it said and continue to resist American expansion for a dozen years after the Revolution. Why would they be resisting American expansion? Is when it doesn't make no sense, man. Because they tell you the British came here to fight the Americans. Americans fought them off, but at the same time, Americans was fighting wars with the Indians too. It don't make no sense. I think that the whole thing was over to fight them off and take the land. So it say in 1783, under the terms of Peace of Paris, it say without regards to its Indian allies, British handed over the new United States. It say all its territory east of Mississippi, south of the Great Lakes, and north of Florida. It said the United States proceeded to expand westward. Okay, the United States is the Virginia Company. The Virginia Company is Britain. You see how misleading they trying to mislead you, and I can prove that in a simple Google search. All right, so it said the United States proceeded to expand westward. So where did they start off? They started off southeast in Virginia. They went what you would call east north, and went all the way up, and then came down, and then started taking some of the south. Now they trying to come across over, like they trying to come from VA to California westward. Okay, so where was that? All right, so let's see. All right, I was right here. I'm sorry. So it's acquiring land by treaty and by force. Okay, so let me read that again. So it's saying, now think about what we read. Okay, Britain is America. Okay, so let's not get that confused. Okay, so it says 1783 under Peace of Paris, without regards to the Indian allies. All right, so it said the peace of Paris without any regards to its Indian allies. So the Indians that sold us out they sold them out eventually. It say Britain handed over the new United States and its territory east of Mississippi, south of Great Lakes, and north of Florida. That shit doesn't make no sense. I'm not believing that. So, all right, saying the United States proceeded to expand westward. The United States, remember, is Britain. It said acquiring land. No, it said acquiring Indian land. Now, think about it like this. The United States is fighting off Britain at the same time they trying to take the land from the Indians. Wouldn't it just make more sense that the British came over and helped the United States take the land from the Indians, and now they spreading out after they took that? Because remember, it was supposed to be Jamestown, and they started from Jamestown to make 13 colonies, okay? Because they were selling out, and other tribes were selling out as well. So when you start seeing these people like Benjamin Banneker, they indigenous to this land. They just Christianized at that point in time when you see them with clothes on. We started off wearing feather feather crowns, grass or tobacco you know, that they covered us or whatever you know, I don't call them a skirt, but you know, but then when you start seeing Benjamin Banneker and all these other people, you start wondering, like, hold up, man. So now you start understanding what they start meaning by people start selling us out or whatever, because people start learning the system when they was Christianized and they sold out. They was selling us out. Like the ones who resisted, they stayed in slavery. You understand what I'm saying? That's the way it seems from the way the story is. All right, so let me get going. So it said the United States proceeded to expand westward, acquiring Indian land by treaty and by force. Stockbridges and Annitas without no, it say who had supported the Americans. It say lost land, as well as the Seneca and Shawnee who had fought against them. It say so. All right, so it's saying right here. So it say Stockbridges and Oneidas. So it must be certain tribes. It say who had supported the Americas. It say lost land as well. So basically, they crossed them after they crossed them after they helped them cross their own people. Okay, so now when you start saying, oh, Moors is the one, because this is what I'm thinking what happened. Now the so-called tribes that help with the United States and help fight against the war are the ones that they recognize right now. Now the reason why you see all these mixed people in these tribes, because them was the tribes that was blending in, so they already was mixing in with the tribes already. You understand that? I understand why you see white people in a lot of these tribes, because what happened was when they came here, when I just read that other story, let me see if I can find it real quick. Right here, just hold on. So it's in this article right here. Let me see. I think it's right here. So it say, but not all Indians fought against the British. Many Indians, in particular coastal tribes, fought for the Americas. All right, so remember, America is British. Americans would be the British. All right, so, but like I said, it doesn't make sense that America and Britain is fighting when America and Britain is one and fucking same. Okay, now, like I said, British came here and helped the so-called other British colonies fight off the Indians. That's what I'm thinking. They say the answer was often personal in nature. These tribes were most involved with the people who would become American. They say they have no saying they was most involved with the so-called British. So you're saying with the so-called now the Europeans that claim they're being called Americans are the ones that they're saying these tribes were mostly involved with the people who would become American. They had lived amongst them for 150 years at this point. Intermarried. So this is where you see these Europeans in these tribes. You understand what I'm saying? This is where you see these Europeans in these tribes by them intermarrying. It's saying and formed communities. You know what I'm saying? And personal relationships with them. In many cases, for Indians living among or near white communities, the decision was a personal one. All right. So that pretty much explains it right there. Why you see these other tribes that they gave treaties to and they gave reparations to, because they sold us out, and we right now we've been called Negro, African American, and Black. All right. So where was I? I was right here. So I said, no, hold up. I was down here. Okay. So that's why these tribes lost. So they basically sold them out too eventually. So it's saying Indians fought in the revolution for Indian liberty. Okay, it's say an Indian homeland. It's saying not for the British Empire, but the images of Indian participating presented in the Declaration of Independence prevail. Most Americans believe that Indians had backed monarch and tyranny. Sorry, tyranny. So, okay, so let me read that again. So it's saying, but the images of the Indians participating presented in the Declaration of Independence prevail. Most Americans believe that Indians had backed monarchy and tyranny. It's saying the nation conceived in liberty needs nation conceived in liberty needs feel no remorse about the dispossession and expelling those who have fought against its birth. All right. So that'll tell you right there that the tribes are trying to fight to keep their land. Now, when we deal with Britain, if people still think that the United States fought a war to disconnect itself, Washington D.C., which is the 10 by 10 square or the something those square miles of the District of Columbia, is the military branch. The City of London, which is the Virginia Company, is the finance branch. Remember, the Virginia Company financed the people to come over here and colonize. The Vatican is the religious branch. What did they do? They force you to Christianity. They force you to Christianity. You already know. So where did Christianity come from? The Vatican. Okay? Now, alright, so I actually put this in my other video, and let me see. Hold on, going up. Right. So they're saying the USA is and always has been a huge corporation ruled from abroad. Abroad where? In London. It say its initial name was the Virginia Company, and it is owned by the British Crown and the Vatican. Okay? That's the reason why you're a Christian. It say who received their yearly share in profit. The U.S. president are appointed CEO. They CEO of the corporation. They are not elected by us. Okay? You guys already know that. I don't even need to go into it. But for all y'all, I'm starting to see something else. Let me see. When we see this right here, right? These are your traders right here, right? Now, these aren't just Moors. These are Aborigines. Okay? These are Aborigines talking to George Washington. You understand? What they talking to him about. Now, after I just read what was going on, you already know what they probably talking to him about. They probably trying to and most of the time when you seen people like this talking to these, they was conspiring to fight against the other Indian tribes. That's the reason why Indians had Indian slaves. Because after they helped the Europeans, they captured, they was able to keep some of the slaves. That's not what I'm looking for. That's why you see pictures like this. Okay, these are Aborigines who was captured, and they gave this Aborigine right here power. You understand? That's the reason why you see this right here. Now I'm gonna read this right here. Right now, I'm a freestyle on it. It say, if we would agree to take away their crown, their feather crowns, it say, and turbans. Okay, we did see some Aborigines wearing turbans, but not turbans like we think the regular Moors had. All right, it say off their head, remove their sandals from their feet, and enforce severe punishment, and to also swear a death oath between ourselves and religious. Now, what do Masonic Temple hold? They got a death oath. If you tell off with your head, you already know. So it's saying between ourselves and our religiously and faithful, not to allow anyone to teach the Aborigine children who they really were They say, or who their forefathers were. They say, and only allow the Aborigine children to be taught that they were a truly Negro, black people, and colored folks. 200 years from today, the Aborigine people would not know their nationality, nor their national name, nor their forefathers. They say also they would not know from which land or ancestors that they are descendants from. All right, so that's plain. So, man, y'all just check out the video, man. Just, you know what I'm saying, keep it like that. And that's why you see these images like this. You understand? Now he Christianized. Now he gonna come back and basically sell his tribal members out. And this is a revolutionary war right here. This is it right here. These are the so-called Britain. Look who they fighting. Look who they fighting. They look like they fighting all Aborigines. You understand? Look who they fighting. They fighting all Aborigines. And that's what this whole war was about. They brought them in because they wanted to take control of the land fully. So, man, look, man, I don't even need to go further with this one, man. This is part 2. You know what I'm saying? Showed you who, you know what I'm saying, that Britain is the Virginia company. So how can they separate themselves from it when they the one been funding them the whole time? So, man, with that being said, man, I'm out of here. Peace. Talk to you.